Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Austin, and we are on BYO Beats. Looking forward to having a great conversation tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is BYO Beats Podcast, your beer and music podcast. If things look different and sound different, my apologies. My computer just died 2 days ago, and I haven't had time to fix it, so got kind of an ad hoc setup on my wife's laptop. So we're going. Let's get drinking. Let's get
Yes.
into it.
Real fast. RIP computer.
Yes. Pouring out.
Cheers to the computer.
Cheers to the computer.
So sad.
So, I just botched the ceremonial crack.
Well, here we'll do it
Yeah.
for you.
Oh yeah. All right.
Special
So for the anthem today, the selection was Guinness. So I believe we've had Guinness on the show before. Correct me if I'm wrong, Toss.
I don't remember it. I mean, obviously, I've had Guinness, but I don't remember being on the show.
For some
I don't
reason,
think.
I remember I think it was the fluorescent show we had Guinness.
Oh, that could be. I don't remember that show that well.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years.
I feel like I was not very adventurous with my beer selections, unfortunately.
That's okay. I mean,
We kept it pretty close to the middle of the road.
that's fine. Honestly, that's kind of what we need right now because like we were recording our like monthly episode of just us two the other day, and we were like, drinking a beer doesn't sound that great right now. We don't know why. We're just so stressed, and so like the fact that we're getting back into beer at the same time as doing this show, and they're simple beers to drink. It's a good thing for us, I think.
Yeah, it's
There we go.
nice. I don't know if we like scheduled too much at one time or this.
We
tried.
did.
I think the main thing is I think we tried. We struggle with social media, and we started trying to produce more content, and that burned us out really quickly. Even though we only made like 2 or 3 videos each, and we're like, oh,
Hey, we got a good month in of posting
we
3 times a week. So
So
anyway,
Tyler, this is your episode. What makes this your anthem beer?
It's just something that like if I don't see anything that I know, I kind of know that this is going to be most places, and I enjoy it. And um, I think I actually didn't have Guinness the first time until I went to the Guinness brewery, like in Ireland. So it kind of is like special in that regard that like that's the first place that I had it. And it really is kind of different in America versus in Ireland. Like the taste profile is a little bit different, but yeah, I just kind of like it, and it's sort of a porch pounder for me, and it's safe.
do you remember what the like flavored difference was? Like if there was a big one to
Um,
speak of or no?
yeah, I think that it's a little bit more creamy in
Hmm,
Ireland, like maybe just like a little bit of like in America, maybe it's a little bit more syrupy, and then in Ireland it lacks that sort of like almost stickiness
Gotcha.
to it.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
you can definitely tell that it's smooth, but
yeah,
you definitely get like it's like how you drink if you drink a Coke, like Mexican Coke with real sugar, or even a lot of European Coke is made with real sugar as well. Versus here, when it's made with corn syrup, you can kind of taste that difference. Somewhat
totally.
similar.
I did start drinking mine before we started the
Perfect.
interview.
That's
So
fine. Yeah. So yeah, Guinness, pretty simple, but great also.
Yeah, I think this is really one of the like baseline stouts out there.
Mhm.
This for
I don't
me,
think of another one if you're talking about baseline stouts.
yeah, no, like this is the poster child for what a basic stout should taste and feel like. I do like how it's lighter than a lot of craft stouts that you get. Like, because some of these stouts that we're drinking with like the lactose and all the crazy breakfast
God.
flavors, like it stacks up, and it feels like you're eating something as opposed to drinking a beer. And I do like with this how it's light enough where it tastes like a beer, but it still has that like darker kind of roasted flavor.
Sure. I am
Cool.
sure that you will teach me things about beer.
Oh,
this
nice.
evening.
All right.
Yeah, that's what the show's all about.
I am not an expert. I actually like not being an expert about certain things, you know? Like I have this high level of expertise with music, and music is not magical for me very often anymore, you know?
Wow. Thought that recently. It's kind of like a drug in that aspect. I think like you build up a tolerance to how much of a beautiful thing that you can consume, and then it's just like it really takes something special at a certain point.
Totally.
Yeah. Are we gonna have one of those moments with this first song though?
I hope so.
We can only hope.
We can. Yes, true.
Okay,
All
so
right.
with that, we are going to take a quick break and listen to the song. All you listeners at home, remember that all of these songs are accessible on the BYO Beats podcast, the Complete Collection playlist, available on Spotify. You can either search up that name or it's in our link tree. If you don't know where our link tree is, go to our Instagram page. It's right there in the bio. That has all of our stuff on it. So,
Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link that'll be in the top right corner
yes,
for
that's right.
video. Please go watch us on YouTube. It's a lot easier to get to your song.
Oh yeah. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and listen to it. So for your homework, you'll be listening to "Death with Dignity" by, okay, is it Sufjan? I've heard it many ways.
Yeah, I just hear Sufjan
Sufjan?
most often. Yeah, Sufjan Stevens.
Stevens. All right, so "Death with Dignity." We're going to take a quick listen. Be right back. So you just heard "Death with Dignity" by Sufjan Stevens. Well, we just listened to it. Hopefully you paused and went and took a listen to that. Tyler, what makes that your anthem?
You know, we were talking about how I was just up in Michigan, and when I was doing my doctorate at Michigan State University, I used to go for a run almost every day, and that was like at the top of the playlist. So it was just something that like I heard over and over again while I was doing this thing over and over again, and it sort of like baked itself into my life, you know? So it's just always kind of coming back and something that I'm really comfortable with. And like if I don't know what to put on, I just put that on. And then you know, that's always a solid option for me.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So, what about the song makes you want to do that? Is it the vibe of the song, what the lyrics are expressing, or is it just you like it that much?
Well, you know, I'm a trained musician, so a lot of the songs on that particular playlist when I was running were based off of different tempos, and so my running stride was a triplet for every 2 beats or so, and it just like I kind of fell into rhythm with the song. So that was why I originally picked it, because I was trying to pick an entire playlist that sort of had at least this internal sense of the same rhythm that I could sort of rely on to keep my pace. But then I just like the sound. I really like ambient music. I really like music that has kind of a mix of electronic and acoustic sounds. If that's done well and subtly, that's just something that I kind of always identify with as a listener. So it's you know, kind of a multifaceted answer, but and then I just like all of Sufjan's music. You know, I'm always listening to the albums. I love the Chicago or the Illinois album, and yeah, they're just like huge staples for me.
Very cool. I don't think I've heard of. Is it odd that I haven't heard of this artist?
Yes,
Or
it's a little
it is odd. Oh no.
Well,
Oh, I don't think it's super odd. I think he's kind of niche, but like, do you know the movie? Well, I mean, I'm kind of blanking on it now, honestly, but he's like his songs get used in a lot of soundtracks, like
Okay,
popular music soundtracks. And that was probably one of the first places I encountered him.
gotcha. I I do think I've heard the name. It's not that I've just like never heard of this person or anything. It's just
Okay, yeah,
I don't think that I could hear their music and say, oh, that's obviously that's yeah. I don't think I could identify it,
Mhm.
but um yeah, that's why I like the show though, because I always hear stuff I don't know. So yeah,
It's
yeah.
just kind of low key.
yeah.
Hmm.
So is that a trend with a lot of the music you listen to, or is this where you start your day, kind of?
You know, when I was in like the end of high school and the beginning of my undergrad degree, I listened to a ton of screamo. Um,
Wow. Okay.
like a lot of
All
screamo.
right, name some artists.
Um,
Let's go.
I don't even know if I can anymore. I'd have to like look back. Um, but yeah, isn't that terrible? Like I just listen to so much music all the time that I have a hard time like keeping it all, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
sure I could look back on old playlists. Um, and yeah, so anyway, like I feel like I lived in that sound world for a while, and now I would say, yeah, I tend towards music that's like very quiet or smooth or you know, but then we're gonna listen to some other stuff that's still like, you know, some of my go-tos, and it's very much not that. But you know, we'll listen to a Philip Glass piece later. I love Philip Glass. I love minimalism, you know. Um, I like ambient music. I will, you know, put on like lo-fi stuff when I'm grading or like working on my courses, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that I tend to gravitate more towards those kind of sounds
Gotcha.
overall.
Yeah. I use lo-fi to fall asleep, and it plays all night. So I'm surprised it wasn't in my top 5 for my Spotify Wrapped. But my first like daily mix is all lo-fi, and I'm like, okay, thanks, but shut up.
Yeah, and I know this isn't a Spotify or Wrapped podcast, but I saw a lot of people online complaining, and I saw someone even made like an in-depth video talking about how it wasn't accurate because they tracked everything manually, and I'm like,
Mm.
I mean, good for you, but
yeah,
we
I'm
we
also
just want
pressing X to
to.
doubt. Like, I'm pretty sure you're just making that up for the clout, but
That is fair. I feel like a computer program would probably be able to keep the data a little better than someone manually doing it.
yeah,
But anyway, let's get back to music and beer. Not that that's not about music, but anyway.
yeah.
Uh,
So I guess, and this kind of, I find the screamo comment very interesting as well. Um, do you find yourself when it comes to listening to music for, I guess, not work, right? Because we've had this discussion a few times about professional musicians and how it's kind of, you're in interesting territory, right? Because you do everything, you're doing music all day for a living, and then, you know, you come back from that, and a lot of people use music as a way to unwind and to
Mhm.
relax and stuff. So, do you find yourself listening to lyrics a lot, or is it more about the vibes? Because, I mean, we're talking about like lo-fi, we're talking about ambient, even screamo to an extent. You really have to focus if you want to learn the lyrics to a lot of those, especially depending on the artist. So, I mean, can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely do not tend to gravitate towards lyrics versus gravitating towards sounds. And honestly, sometimes it's even frustrating to me because I'll realize, like, oh my gosh, I've listened to the song like 100 times and I have no idea what it's about. Um, so it's really just about like the whole world of sound that the song or the piece lives in for me. And I consider myself kind of like a sound addict. Like I'm always like so interested in finding new sounds and like new ways of combining instruments or combining different voices, or what I was talking about earlier with like the combination of electronic and acoustic sounds. I think that that's really interesting, especially like when you can't tell when the acoustic stuff ends and where the electronic stuff begins. I think that that is like a really just like captivating way to approach making sound and music that we, nobody before our generation really had the option of doing that on the level that we're able to, unless you were talking about like cutting up, tape of recordings and like
Right.
stitching stuff together. Like it was so archaic the way that we used to have to do those sort of things with, like what the Beatles were doing, like they did the electronic and acoustic thing probably better than anyone in the time that they were doing it, and it's still, we can listen to it and say like, yeah, it's a little bit antiquated. I mean, it's still amazing, but it would have been so, like, what would they do now? It would be probably
Right.
completely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that to say, I wish that I was better at paying attention to the words, but I'm definitely not.
Well, I think that's the beauty of music as an art form too, right? Like you look at a painting and three people can have totally different interpretations of what that painting means or is about, and those three opinions can be entirely different than what the painter intended. So you kind of apply that same lens to music in a sense that you can choose to ignore lyrics if you want and just focus on the soundscape. You can choose to ignore the sound and focus strictly on the lyrics and treat it more like poetry. And it's really in on the listener to decide how they want to consume that art, and I think that's what makes it so spectacular.
Mhm. It also probably has something to do with the fact that I'm like a conductor of wind music and I'm a conductor of orchestral music. And most of my repertoire that I'm doing frequently does not have words, it's all instrumental. Not that I don't ever do anything with words, but that's definitely more of like a special scenario
Mm-hmm.
for me in my work. And so I'm just kind of out of practice. I'm sure if you asked a choral conductor, they would say, you know,
That's true.
the
Yeah.
words are the most important, the text is the most important. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I just kind of like that not being a part of my daily diet makes it a little bit further from center for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we are on a little bit of an accelerated schedule today, so this will be a little bit of a shorter episode, but that's okay. We're going to get to our ratings. So for the Guinness, as a reminder, as we do on this show, we like to do ratings out of 5 on quarter increments, so 0.25 increments. Um, or if you prefer to get more creative and just say what you feel when you drink it, that's great too. I tend to gravitate towards the number rating scale. So I'll go first with the Guinness. Um, like I said before, this is just your baseline stout. Um, all stouts pretty much have this base flavor and then take it somewhere else from there. Um, for that reason, I think it's hard to get anywhere above like a 3.5, but I think it does it so well. I have yet to taste it. I have yet to go to Ireland and go straight to the source, but I'm sure that'll taste a little better, a little creamier, like you were saying, Tyler. But I'm gonna go with a 3.5 on this one.
I think that's a noble 3.5.
Uh, I'll say, well, yeah, it's well established that I like stouts a lot more than Johnny. So I'm going to give this a high 3.75.
Okay.
Almost a 4. It's just I've rated too many better stouts at a 4 that I think this has to stay in the 3 range. But
Yeah, I think so too. Probably a 3.75 for me. It would probably be honestly be a 3.5 other than like the positive memories that I associate
mm,
with, with this beer.
yeah, that does count though. I think, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we're gonna rinse out our glasses, pour our next ones, and be back at you for segment number 2. Welcome back to BYO Beats Podcast, your beer and music podcast. We are here into segment 2 with our guest Tyler Austin. This is the childhood memory segment. We're going to start with the beer real quick, and then we'll get into Tyler's bio. So the selection for this one was Yuengling. I don't think, Doss, were you able to get this one? I feel like it's hard to get in Michigan.
I don't think it's possible to get it in Michigan. They just don't. They don't like us. Don't know.
Yeah. I got a hard time getting it out here west of the Mississippi as well. You know they have it in Florida? That's what I
They
like.
have it in a lot of southern states.
Yeah.
Like much easier to get down south than up north. Maybe it's just because there's a higher constant. Well, that's not true because I'm pretty sure like one of the biggest beer capitals of the country is Norfolk.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it can't be just like only southern thing to not to send Yuengling down there. I don't know.
Yeah, but
anyways, I like it.
So,
I wish they liked this enough to send it here. But
what do you have?
I've got North Peak Brewing's Siren Amber Ale.
Okay. I usually go with Fat Tire because that's abundant out here. But this time I went for Alaskan, their Amber. So I've had a couple Alaskan Brewing Company beers before. I think I've had like their hazy, their regular IPA. It's usually pretty good. So hopefully this Amber's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Tyler, you have the correct one?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Lucky. It's been like 3 years since I've had. Well, that's not true. 2 summers ago, I had one in Texas. That doesn't count. Texas beers don't count. I don't think. But
I went to undergrad in Pennsylvania, so obviously Yuengling was a very important part of that experience.
Yep.
In the middle of the woods in central Pennsylvania, no less. So an even more important part of that experience. But it's also the beer that my dad always drank when I was growing up. So that's kind of for both of those reasons. That's kind of why I went in this direction.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, Yuengling is. So I lived in Pittsburgh over COVID, and people were drinking like fish during that time. So because like there's nothing better to do. No judgment. Definitely, I was on the same train, and I was lucky enough to work in a beer department of a grocery store during that time. So yeah, I got to know Yuengling and all of its variants very well. Have you had the Hershey Porter before?
Mm-hmm.
You have. I've heard mixed reviews. What was your opinion?
I think it's okay.
Yeah, if you're going for Yuengling,
would have again.
You would? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about the Black and Tan? It's the only bottled Black and Tan I've ever seen.
I don't know if I've ever had it. I have definitely seen it, but I don't know if I've ever had it.
Okay. And then the only other ones I've seen they have a golden and then like light, but I don't want a light Yuengling. Why would you want a light Yuengling?
I actually just had that. So I was just in Florida
Really?
this past weekend, and they had it. So I had one. We were chilling on the beach watching a sunset over the Gulf of Mexico. Highly would recommend. I'm not even a beach person, and it was spectacular. It tasted better than a light beer, but it was also not so heavy. Like even this amber, like all ambers are going to be a little bit heavy just because they have that extra caramel maltiness to it. But that's not something you'd really want when it's 80 degrees outside. So
Yeah.
I think the light it's a nice balance if you want some more flavor, but you're not trying to get like a light beer. It's a good balance. So yeah, I don't think I would ever go for one like on draft at a bar. Like I would if I'm at a bar, I'd rather do something like craft, or if I'm at like B-Dubs or something, then I'd go with like a Blue Moon or something. But
you're talking about Yuengling or Yuengling Light?
I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
No, you didn't. You're good. No.
The light was good for the situation I was in. I don't think I would get a light again unless I was getting cans to enjoy outside.
I'm
on
down.
The beach or camping or whatever in the summer.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's get to know you a little bit more, Tyler. So as a professional musician, we tend to say like with some of our self-taught, we'll say, okay, go as far back as you want. But when you're classically trained, you know, that could be really, really long. So kind of briefly describe from like what your education is and what your professional career is. Just like give us a good idea of who you are as a musician.
Sure. Um, I grew up in Western Maryland in the like right where the state gets skinny, in between Frederick and Hagerstown. And I was always really interested in music from a young age. I always tell people like one of my first musical memories is my mom got me this book called The Musical Life of Gustav Moll when I was a kid. And it was a bunch of like anthropomorphized animals like playing instruments and things, and there was like, you know, a frog playing a bassoon and things like that. I am a bassoonist, so I, you know, from like a young age I just remember being like really interested in getting her to read that to me over and over and over again. And I think that there was even like a cassette tape of like somebody read the book, but there was also music as a part of it. And I remember asking for like a violin for one of my earliest birthdays, and they got me a violin, and I had no idea how to play it. And it was like, you know, I was always just like tinkering around and trying to figure out like how to make music from a young age. So I started taking piano in kindergarten, and I did that until sixth grade. And then I started playing the saxophone in middle school band. I hated band in middle school. I almost quit like 7 million times, and there were a lot of reasons for that. But ultimately, I don't think that I had like an experience yet that had proved to me what I was doing band for. But for whatever reason, I stayed in, and then I got to high school and started doing marching bands, and that was really exciting. And I had a really good high school band director, and he was sort of the first person in my life that made me realize, you know, in hindsight, I am not sure that he was like the greatest high school band director in the world or anything. He was a good band director, but he was really great at getting students to be motivated about something and like getting buy-in. And so through that, you know, through getting me to buy into the whole marching band, high school band program thing, he sort of showed me like how music can allow you to have these experiences where you kind of realize in the moment like that you're contributing to something that's bigger than yourself. And I thought that that was really beautiful and also very mysterious, you know, like I didn't understand like why or how I was having those experiences. And I'm a generally pretty inquisitive person, so I like trying to find answers to those things that I don't understand, usually either that or I decide that I want to keep it more mysterious. And so then I went to undergrad and I studied music education at Susquehanna University, as I said, in the woods in central Pennsylvania. The whole school had 2,000 students, the whole university, I mean, maybe like yeah, it was small. And maybe like 150 of those were music majors. It was like music was actually a really significant part of the school because of the school size versus the music school or the music department. And I had a lot of really amazing experiences there. I also took a lot of religion coursework and anthropology coursework, having no intention of ultimately being religious or being an anthropologist. But I still felt like if I studied those two things, then I would learn a lot about other people and other perspectives. And there were really amazing professors that were teaching those courses. So you know, that was one of the reasons why I chose to go to a place like Susquehanna. I wanted to explore lots of different things. And then after that, I wanted to have a very focused experience in music. So I ended up going to University of North Texas, where I was a bassoon performance major. And the College of Music at North Texas had more students in it than my entire undergrad university. It had like 2,400 music majors.
Yeah.
And so that was like a huge culture shock for me because I was used to this very like tight-knit community. Everybody always knew everybody's business, you know, probably for better and for worse. And then I got to the College of Music at UNT, and it was just like, I was one of 32 bassoon majors, and we were the smallest studio in the entire College of Music. So, you know, I went from being friends with like music majors, history majors, English majors, whatever, to like every single one of my friends at UNT was either a bassoonist or an oboist or a clarinetist, or I had some friends that played the trumpet. And then I had very sporadic friends, like maybe one friend in another instrument, but like the the social circle was the same size, but the demographic was so focused because those were just like those were the people I was sitting beside at ensembles, and those were the people that I was spending all my time with, making reeds and practicing that part of the craft. And it was awesome. And then I also started teaching. I had like 30 private high school and middle school bassoon students during that time, which is like a really big part of the culture in Texas, that like middle schoolers and high schoolers all take lessons. And people told me, like, you're going to move to Texas and in 3 months you're going to have a huge private studio. And I was like, I play the bassoon. There's no way that this is going to happen. And it absolutely happened. Like, I didn't even really, I mean, of course you like apply for things, but there were so many schools that needed a bassoon teacher that I just threw out apps and got hired. And it was just almost instantaneous. So that was really cool because I got to kind of cut my teeth on, with teaching. And I was all of a sudden responsible for all of these like pretty talented young people and being their sort of guide through that experience that I really had not had, super much before myself. But I loved that time of life. I was gigging a lot, and I got a lot better at my instrument. And then after that, I applied kind of all over the country, and I wanted to teach and be a band director, and just like life, just kind of, I'll say serendipitously, because I think it ended up being a great thing. I ended up getting a job right back where I grew up, in Frederick, Maryland, teaching at a really small private school, a Catholic school. So like that whole high school had 250 students in it.
Okay.
And my band had, I think at a maximum 17 students, and including like a cello, like,
Whoa.
like a very far-reaching definition of the word band.
Right.
But and then I was teaching choir and percussion ensemble and doing the musical and doing freshman music summit. I was the music teacher in the school, and that ended up also being awesome. And I loved getting to do all of that different stuff, and I think it made me a better teacher. And then I started teaching community college classes, and I was playing principal bassoon in Maryland Lyric Opera Orchestra, and I was gigging in 2 professional wind quintets, and I was having like the time of my life. And I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this for a little bit. I'm like getting everything that I want out of this. And then at the end of my second year, they changed the curriculum of the high school where I was teaching, and it was going to basically just kill ensembles at the school. Ensembles were going to conflict with AP classes in a way that was not really conducive of, the program existing after a student's sophomore year.
We've had the AP discussion on this show before.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, but there are obviously schools that have figured out how this cannot be a problem. So I ended up kind of saying, well, I'm going to have to either switch schools and go somewhere else in the area and teach for a couple more years, which I was totally willing to do because I loved teaching high school. Or I had met my doctoral conducting teacher, Kevin Sedetol, and he said, I'm not telling you that you're going to get in, but we both know that you want to go to Michigan State, and I want you to go to Michigan State. So why don't you just take the audition and we'll see what happens. And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, that sounds like I always knew that I wanted to go to Michigan State for my doctorate. I didn't apply anywhere else. I knew that that was where I wanted to go, and I was kind of willing to be patient, until that was able to happen. And then I got in. So I was like, well, I'm 26. I think it's a huge risk to get a doctorate and be finished when I'm 28, but I don't know if I'm going to get this opportunity again for who knows how long. I have it right now. And so I decided to take a terrible risk and gamble. And I just hoped that I was good enough and would also work hard enough to, get to where I needed to be to get a job afterwards. luckily that happened, and I ended up being one of the athletic band directors at Oklahoma State University for 4 years, which was one of the most awesome things I've ever done. Standing on a bright orange ladder, the Big 12 championship in the Dallas Cowboys stadium, going like, this was definitely not supposed to be me. um, but at the same time, like being on the ladder and just like screaming and shaking my fists, and then looking at all the students in the marching band and knowing that I had maybe like some small part in them having that quintessential college experience, that was really freaking cool. And then I kind of wanted to get back towards the East Coast because my parents still live in Maryland, and all of my siblings, I have 3 siblings, they're all younger than me, they all live in Maryland. Actually, my brother just moved to New Jersey. So he's only the second person to leave. So I was maybe a little bit guilted, but also, genuinely did feel like I wanted to be back on the East Coast. The job at Old Dominion University opened up, and that is where I am currently as director of bands. So I oversee the whole band area, including like administrative duties with athletic bands. I have graduate conducting students, which is one of the great privileges of my life, and I love my students to death, and they definitely need to get better. And yeah, so I'm just kind of doing all the things that I want to be doing in the place that I want to be doing it right now, and I feel like I'm kind of on my path. Sorry, that might have been a lot of words.
That's all right.
That's good.
Perfect summary of it was.
Well, you've done a lot of things,
and you've done so many things. That was one of 2 questions I wanted to ask. I've narrowed down from 4 million, but the first one was, how did it feel to have had that much experience at just 26 years old, having done high school band and doing every form of music in a school, and also having already been a gigging musician and gone to big school and small school, which I was also fortunate to do, but I think I did it in the wrong order.
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I just kept like falling into things, but I also, when I was younger, I really benefited from being a person that did not need very much sleep. And I'm definitely not that way anymore. Like now, if I don't sleep, I get sick.
Yeah.
But I remember being like age 22 to 26, 7, even into my time at Michigan State. And I just, would sleep like 4 hours a night, and I never really got tired of working. And I feel very lucky that like my level of curiosity for the thing that I have chosen to give my life to is so great that I don't experience fatigue where I think a lot of other people would, and like it just like would in the way of like, because they're a living human that has needs of like rest and like, and so I don't know. I think that like just my unique, deeply felt love of the art form and of teaching, both of those things have just kind of allowed me to put myself in various circumstances where like, I've done a lot of things that I didn't know were going to work out. One thing that I didn't even talk about was that I started a professional chamber winds ensemble, and a nonprofit organization, which is now called Newfound Chamber Winds. It used to be called Maryland Chamber Winds, and we're going into our 12th year of programming, and we're running almost a $60,000 budget this year, and we're running multiple summer programs for music students, and composers, conductors, and performers, and like I didn't know if any of that was going to be the way that it is now when I was 25 and didn't know anything about anything. I just literally said like, I remember talking with my friend who was an oboist who I met at UNT, and we were talking about doing a project together, and I said, like, let's start a summer festival. Like, how hard could it be? Haha. You know, like, let's just have our friends come and let's play music. And now it's like grown into this thing. But that was definitely a risk, you know. And like, I've thrown my own money into that project multiple times, like a significant amount of it, hoping that it would pay back and off, which it has. But, you know, I guess to answer your question, like, what does it feel like? It feels like I am a great balance of fastidious and also lucky.
Okay.
And I think luck has a huge part to do with it, to be completely honest with you. And then like you augment that by being good at what you do and being nice.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I wish
Right.
we had so much more time, but we do need to get to the song.
Yeah, we do. We have
Sure,
a whole
yeah,
song to listen to, so we're gonna do that. So this is a selection from Simple Plan, the first track off of their album. Oh gosh, what's it called here? I think it's No Pads, No Helmets, Just Balls. It's called I'd Do Anything. So we're gonna listen to that and be right back. So we just listened to I'd Do Anything by Simple Plan. Tyler, briefly, since we are running out of time on this segment, what makes this your childhood memory?
I was just telling you guys that I used to listen to that song while I was mowing the grass, probably because it was one of the things that I could still hear in my over-ear headphones with my Walkman CD player balanced precariously on my left knee or whatever, somehow trying to make it not skip. So again, kind of like lots of hearkening back to a younger, probably not simpler time, probably a much more complicated time. But yeah, when you asked me for that kind of nostalgic thing, that was by far the thing that jumped out first.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, you mentioned Screamo in the last segment. So does this kind of, in your mind, does this kind of go along with it? I mean, we talk a lot about
a little bit
punk and stuff on that show, and we have found the many different subgenres in this space. But
this was probably like the prequel to that. When I was I was probably listening to what's that band's name? Like Good Charlotte.
Yeah,
Charlotte. They would have been around then, or
Plain White Tees.
So, yeah, exactly. Like kind of that alternative rock.
Yes.
You know. Yeah, that probably got me from like 8th grade into high school.
Yeah, very cool. All right.
Downloaded on LimeWire.
Oh yeah.
LimeWire. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would love to chat more about that, but we are pretty much out of time for this segment, so we'll just get to our ratings of the beer. So a reminder, the selection was Yuengling. We talked about it at the very start of the segment. Me and Doss have amber subs. I have from Alaskan Brewing Company, just the amber. It's a red can with a fishing boat on it. It's pretty good. Pretty well balanced. Not too strong or not too weak. But it doesn't really blow me away. Because a lot of ambers, you really want it to have that kind of crushability factor. Like, you want to be able to drink, like, 3 of them. I think that rings true for Yuengling. It rings true for, like, Fat Tire. That's usually what I go to out here. This Alaskan Amber has more of a craft feel to it. And I'm still deciding if that's a good or a bad thing. So I'm going to go with a 3.5.
So I've got the North Peak Siren Amber Ale. I like this a lot. I kind of think in terms of the crushability factor that you were talking about, Johnny, this is high up there. I could probably pass 3 in terms of this one. So because it's past 3, I'd probably go to 4. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Nice.
I'd probably say Yuengling is like a 3 for me. Middle of the road. It's very much like more linked to nostalgia than something that I would ever really choose to drink. You
Makes
know,
sense. Yeah.
like the idea of Yuengling is so much better than the consumption. But but it's solid.
Yeah.
I would certainly this will not be my last.
Nice.
Yeah, I hear that. All right. So with that, we're gonna rinse out our glasses, pour our next ones, be back at you for segment number 3 next week.